I've seen this take, I think, a few too many times, and I just wanted to address it because I genuinely don't understand it, and I would love for those who think this way to maybe explain it for me a little bit more. But I kind of want to give my take, and before I do, today's really quick challenge before we move into the video, it's a very simple one, alright? If in the last 24 hours, you summoned for Saiyan Day Vegeta, in the last 24 hours, which is crazy because it's been like 4-5 days since he's dropped. What are you doing? Why? It's over. All right, save, please. You got caught lacking today. You got to subscribe to the channel. It is what it is. And if you didn't summon for him, that means you passed the challenge today. You passed the checkpoint with flying colors. Appreciate you for saving your stones. Feel free to skip liking the video. Feel free to skip subscribing, but I will catch you lacking in the next video though. So stay tuned for that. Let's move into this. The take is that Super EZAs are going to kill the game. I can't imagine a world where this guy being very good is going to kill the game, or this unit, or Janemba, or this Vegeta. Dude, you have to. I think the main point that I want to make in this video, and honestly, okay, there's two main points. Okay, the first one is not as big as the second one, but the first one being able to experience some of these OG characters becoming dominant again, especially a character like Gogeta, like AGL Vegito Blue, is just going to fill people with nothing but nostalgia, happiness, and enjoyment into the game. All right, a lot of players played when these characters first came out, and the amount of can you imagine being able to rock this guy and one-shot characters the way you were able to 20 years ago? Like, that's just gonna be so fun. That's the first thing, the great thing about Super EZAs, right? Being able to experience the hype and power of these characters again, especially when you look at, dude, how they changed this guy. It's like the sky is the limit for these characters, and that's, again, the first small point. The big point that I really want to make is that Dokkan is a game that benefits when more characters are good. If the top 50 characters in Dokkan are all top tier, how does that kill the game? If anything, it provides a lot of players different options for different teams to take down the best content in the game. Let's say my favorite team is Super Saiyans. Okay, we have top tier Super Saiyan characters. What about Namekians, right? Like, again, I know a lot of categories in Dokkan aren't great. I get that. But the more characters you have that are good, that represent these different categories, the more flexible you can be with teams, the more fun you can have, because it's not just the same team over and over. And I think Dokkan has been doing a really good job over the last few, maybe like the last year or so, where yes, we're getting certain buffs for certain categories and such, but Kamehameha, right? Goku's family, those categories are always going to continue getting buffs. But there's a lot of categories in Dokkan that have gotten extremely powerful buffs, and there's a lot of really strong teams in the game, and Super EZAs are only going to increase that, only going to add to that. So if there's 10-15 categories in the game that you can make top tier teams with, it gives everyone options. You don't have to just go for the Super Saiyan team because it's just far and away the best, right? You don't have to go for a GT. You don't have to, suffer and say, you know what, dude, I don't have Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I can't win the game, right? No, there's other options. There's different ways. There's different characters that can do different things that interact with the game differently. So all these characters receiving these massive buffs is just nothing but great for the game at the end of the day. If I would say, again, I'm trying to think, like, if there's 100 characters in the game, let's say the top 100 characters in Dokkan, you could all argue for number one. Would that be bad? The top 100 characters in the game, you can all argue, you could argue all top 100 characters are the best, like each individually would be the best character in the game. Having 100 characters in Dokkan be that good, is that a bad thing for the game? Or does it allow for more team building options, more enjoyment with the game because you're not just running the same team over and over and over again. Everything feels more fresh. I don't know, man. And you know, Legends is a great example of a game that also benefits from that, right? Like when you have 5-6 different tags that have top tier characters, the meta is very fresh. But when you're just buffing one tag over and over again and it's just one team, it's not fun because if you don't have the team, you lose in PvP, right? Thankfully, Dokkan isn't a PvP game, right? But I think it works very similarly in Dokkan, where it's like if you see content creators beating the hardest event in the game with just the same team because no other team can beat it, it's just boring because now you need that specific team. You want to beat that mission, you want to get that reward, but you can't because it's that, like, it doesn't, you know? But having multiple options, I think, is going to be great. Like, this Kid Buu being able to buff these categories once his EZA drops is going to benefit all of these characters. It just makes the team so much better. I mean, Janemba, same thing. Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta is going to be a massive buff to Vegeta's family. You're going to run this guy on the, you know, Saiyan Day Vegeta's team because of how broken defensively he's going to be. And that just, again, strengthens all of this. Someone might start running crossover because of this, right? Like all these EZAs, man, this is going to be a fantastic EZA. This character right here, I'm telling you right now, is going to be the revival that Potara and Fuse Fighters really want and need. And people are going to start running those categories again. So for a game, I think the meta in Legends moves a lot faster than the meta in Dokkan, for example. Like characters in Legends, 3 months later, they're getting not one shot, but they're kind of like, they're not in that. Where characters in Dokkan could be number one for multiple months in a row. And Legends has had characters like that as well. I know Legends had the red Super Saiyan 2 I Love Gohan be number one in the game for like a year and a half. So that's happened in Legends as well. But overall, I think generally speaking, on average, the meta in Legends moves faster than Dokkan. So you're going to have characters in Dokkan on average that are just better for longer periods of time. So it's not like the game is going to have to keep one-upping itself, right? Like if this character is absolutely insane, but he's not number one in the game, right? So you don't have to, I think a concern could possibly be, they have to keep one-upping themselves, right? And eventually, with all these super EZAs and top tier LRs, the power creep is going to become too much. Let's just assume that was true, okay? They don't have to keep one-upping themselves. We know that this is not the best unit in the game, and yet this character is extremely powerful. That's all they need to do. Make Gogeta extremely powerful. We don't need him to be number one in the game. This isn't PvP, right? Like, it's okay for him to be a top-tier character, not be number one, and he can still perform extremely well. That's the first point. The second point that I wanted to make when it comes to, you know, these characters constantly one-upping themselves is that, again, while that doesn't really need to happen, even if it did, like, so what? This is a PvE game. Who is losing when these characters become powerful? You know who loses? The bosses that we fight. We are getting the maximum enjoyment out of that. We are getting, again, I know it's not, I personally don't like seeing the meta go extremely fast. You know, having a character that drops in January, let's say, that's like number one in the game, and then by March he's like number 5 in the game, you know, and then by July he's like not even top 20. That's a little scary situation because, you know, eventually I could see how characters are, it's like, why even summon, right? Because the character in 3 months is going to be just so much better. Dokkan, they don't really suffer from that. We have one great Dokkan Fest that lasts like 4 or 5 months, and a lot of banger releases in between that aren't really at that level, but still really compete. And that's all they have to do. And at the end of the day, no one's getting butthurt because at the end, like, we're facing Dokkan, we're facing it's PvE content. We're facing a robot, right? An AI or whatever you want to call it. We're not facing each other. So, you know, in Legends, and again, I'm drawing comparisons to Legends because global Dokkan and Legends are very similar with this meta and releasing powerful characters. In Legends, if you release a powerful character and you don't pull that powerful character, when you hop into PvP, you're dying, right? You're losing. Dokkan does not have that by any means. If you don't have that character, if you didn't pull that character, you can still use him as a friend and F up some events. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's it's a thing where you don't like. Yes, certain events require certain characters to really beat it, but at the end of the day, like if you don't pull that character, you're not. It's not going to be used against you. You know, it's not like the absolute end of the world. Like having these teams that are extremely powerful are going to allow, you know, you to not need a specific character anymore. You have different options, different teams, and I think that flexibility is what Super EZAs are going to bring to the game. Having really top tier LRs release while having these old characters become extremely strong, and I think a very diverse meta is going to be something that I think we're all going to learn to appreciate as time goes on. So let me know what you think. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and peace.